Welcome back. What's up? My name's Ty.
And I'm Monica.
This is the What Do You Mean podcast. And this week has been a bit of a whirlwind for us.
Yes, this week has been a whirlwind. Yeah, we literally just put out a life update episode last week, and
Our life updated. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, our life updated the day that podcast episode came out. So we have more to add now. And we initially had a plan for like a different type of episode this week, but I feel like just with everything going on, it didn't feel natural to really be thinking of much else at this point. So let's just fill him in.
Yeah, basically this week, obviously we're in the height of moving. We move in a week from today of the time of recording. So we've been packing, we've been selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace. We've been, trying to sort all that out because we're excited about moving. We're excited about like cleaning the new apartment, having a new space to live, getting to decorate it, all of that kind of stuff. And I received a text from my bosses Wednesday morning telling me to come in a little later. And I was like, all right, cool. This is fun. Like, I got some freelance stuff knocked out and headed into the office. And essentially, I got laid off as soon as I walked in the building. So, yeah, I got laid off, let go, kicked the bucket. I don't know.
Kicked the bucket. He died.
I died. My role died. That's for sure.
Oh,
my self-worth, no.
It's like my self-esteem, long gone. 6 feet under.
Yeah. Dignity ruined. So Wednesday morning, I lost my job, and in a matter of about a 20 to 30 minute conversation or so. I don't really know. And it was weird because I did have a little bit of a feeling just with kind of the way the text had come in. Like nothing felt quite right. And so I had even texted Monica on my way in and was like, I feel anxious and I don't know why. And if you know me, I'm not an anxious person, hardly ever. And it was like unnerving that I was feeling anxious, and turns out it was for good reason. So that we kind of just dealt with that all day on Wednesday, which was not something, because it was just so out of the blue. It felt like getting broken up with when you didn't really want to get broken up with. And that sucks,
Yeah, it was definitely unexpected. I don't know. I mean, Ty sent me that text Wednesday morning saying like, I feel stressed or anxious or whatever. And I like immediately took that on too, because I was like, okay, like, why are you stressed? And then he didn't respond for a bit. I assume it's because he was like in the meeting, but he had mentioned earlier that morning, like when his bosses told him to come in later, it was kind of like a half joke, but I guess not, where you were like, hope I don't get fired or something like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then when he wasn't responding to my text, I was already at work at this point. It was one of my in-person work days, unfortunately. And he hadn't responded for a while. And then I got a phone call from him and I was like, that's probably not good. And I answered it and he was just like, hi, I just got let go. And I was like, okay, I'll meet you at home.
Yeah.
Because at that point it was it was such a shock that I had no indication of any of this. And for the most part, I don't think you did either. I mean,
really, yeah.
It mentioned like some feelings of.
Yeah, I mean, over time, like you always kind of get a sense of how the company is doing and how people are stressed out or not at a small business. And so I think like I was aware a little bit of what things were looking like and feeling like, but it wasn't something that I felt I needed to be concerned about. And I think it was tricky too, because like we had just gone on a shoot. I was in the middle of a project that I was directing, and like I won't get to see that project through to the end, which is weird for me because I'm not used to that kind of a thing. Yeah, I don't know. It just like I didn't have the mental preparation. I feel like I said it felt like a breakup earlier, and it does. But I feel like a lot of the time in a breakup, you kind of get a sense of like, oh, things are fizzling out.
Or like things are rocky.
Things are uncomfy. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, and I hope we figure it out. And that wasn't really the case. Like, I was like, cool, like, we're chilling. And we were not chilling, apparently. So, yeah, we just kind of reconvened at home, you and I. And it was a long day. Wednesday was a long, long day.
It was a very long day. And
with a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
In all facets. Like, and on like a 10-minute.
No, we were literally taking turns panicking all day long.
Yeah.
On Wednesday. Like
I had at least 2 panic attacks, but then in between would be like, I'm great. I'm going to go full-time freelance. I'm going to make more money than ever. They'll see. And it's like, it's just tough. Like, losing a job is something so many people go through every single day. And like, depending on the industry, it like happens a lot more frequently, or, you know, I feel like this past winter, a lot of people in tech and like entertainment lost jobs. And so I was really lucky to be in an industry, or be in a position that I felt comfortable. And then now I understand their feelings.
Yeah. And I think just like, I don't know, for me, and we talked about this before, where I feel like every stage of our marriage up to this point has had like some issue. Like when we first got married, I think we got COVID, then we got in our car accident, and Cooper's had all of his issues. Then we finally got the car thing figured out, and you got a job, and we're making a lot more money, and we were feeling set, and like we're on an upward trajectory. And then it kind of just feels like, you know, you get the rug pulled out from under you, and then all of a sudden you're like back to what feels like even below square one, because as long as we've been together, have not survived on one income.
And we were talking about, because you're right, like every season of us being married has had obstacles. And I think part of that is just like life. You're always going to have obstacles, but it sucks when it feels like every time we like just recover from whatever the previous obstacle was 2.5 months ago or 4 months ago, you know, whatever, we end up like, oh fuck, something else horribly wrong just happened.
And it's like you think once one thing gets situated, you're like, oh, we're good. And you just like can't expect whatever happens next.
Yeah.
And so we truly had like no way of knowing this was coming or preparing for it. And so it's kind of just like well, now what? And I think that was like the biggest overarching thought on Wednesday, like when this happened, of us just being like, what do we do? Like, and just not knowing.
Yeah. And it was, 'cause especially for me as like a filmmaker, that's been like when we first met, I was working at a coffee shop and freelancing. And freelancing was going better and better. I was doing better and better as a freelance director. And then I ended up like transitioning into part-time at the label and still freelancing, still doing better. Like I've been constantly climbing throughout our relationship, which has been super helpful for us. And this is the first like major setback, at least monetarily, that I think we've experienced. And I've lost jobs before, mostly in like service industry, different coffee shops, whatever, because of COVID, because of negligence on the company's part. And those all sucked. But this one felt very different because I'm married now. And like, even if things weren't, you know, my fault, or I there were other factors, whatever. Not having an income when you have a person you're responsible for, or at least responsible to, is really scary, because I know like that affects you. And previously, like, it didn't matter what, if I lost a job, I could survive in my car if I needed. But like, that's not an option with you. It's not an option to like not contribute, because we are together 100%, like we're one person. So I don't know. I think that contributed a lot to the emotions that I felt this week. It's contributed a lot to how and what I'm looking for in the next job, or whatever sort of financial situation I can find, whether I'm full-time freelancing or working for a company, working for a production company, whatever. It's like my main thought is now very different than what my main thought was years back when I lost a coffee shop job.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird thing to navigate.
Yeah.
And it's like everything we've dealt with in the past year. It's kind of out of pocket stuff that there's no rule book on like how to navigate it.
Yeah. And it's also like there's no set solution. Like, we still don't know what's gonna come of it, and like we still don't really know how we're gonna navigate it if things don't move quickly, and like if we don't find something quickly.
Yep.
So it's just like there's no, like you said, there's no rule book, there's no like roadmap, and we don't know really what's happening. And
I think that's always especially for me at least, like not knowing what's happening. Well, I know that this is a fear for you because you have anxiety. I actually probably tend to handle not knowing things a little more comfortably than you do. But in this kind of a scenario, like the unknown of it is really tricky to navigate as a couple.
Yeah. And it's not even like we said, like people lose their jobs all the time and get new things all the time. And so I don't doubt that will happen for you. I will say, like, because of how like blindsiding this was and how sudden, I am a little bit frustrated that we don't have more to work with in terms of like whatever severance you were offered, or like just even having any sort of indication that something was coming. I feel like could have allowed us to prepare more, but now it's like, okay, we have 2 weeks until you stop getting paid. We have a week to move, and we have a bunch of stuff we have to buy for our new apartment that like isn't furnished and doesn't have a lot that we need to get a lot for. And it's like, on top of that, okay, you need to be like applying to things and like reaching out to people, and like it's just like all this stuff to think about all at once.
Yeah.
And I just like hate that it had to happen that way instead of it. I feel like in a lot of cases it could have felt a little bit more like.
Yeah. Like the last time I lost a job, it was in 2020. I was still at a coffee shop, and even though it wasn't directly related to COVID, because COVID was going on and so many people around me had lost jobs, I wasn't surprised. Like I was like, oh, okay. When they called and were like, oh, we're like shutting down, there was definitely a like, what the hell? Seriously? But it was also like, okay, I can handle this because I've seen so many people around me handle this because they were all in service industry stuff. And so, and at the same time, I was like, well, easily I can call any of them and they'll be like, if they have a service industry position, I can at least hop in there. This is very different because this isn't the same. Like, this is salary jobs. This is like jobs that people work really hard to sometimes never get. And I think that adds a layer of like fear and confusion of like, well, fuck, I have to like redo my resume now. I have to like rewrite a bunch of cover letters for a bunch of companies. I got to research these companies, see if I even want to apply to them, if this is something that would actually be A, financially helpful for us, B, not destroy my mental health, and like C, like, am I even eligible to apply for half of these jobs? So there's a lot of just unknown, and the blindsidedness of it is by far the hardest part of the whole thing.
Yeah. I feel like this situation, like as shitty as it is, I mean, we've talked about it a bunch in the last few days, but like, I think ultimately it's for the best that this happened. And, you know, even in terms of just figuring out what you want from a company or like future employers, like you probably learned so much from this past job just in how everything has been handled since the very beginning and now, you know, and like,
yeah. And even the type of production that it was, it's like I learned a lot about that. Of, you know, our main thing was documentary at that company, and ultimately, like, we made 5, 6, 7 docs while I was there, and I'm like, I don't really want to do doc. I'm okay, you know, like I was happy to do it, and it was more interesting to me than what I had been doing previously. It was a step farther in the right direction, but it was a job ultimately that I always knew I was going to leave. And obviously millions of people every day are doing jobs that they hope they're going to leave someday.
Right. Like that's not
uncommon. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it is one of those things that I
just wish that you could have had a say in.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I would love to be either in a position that more directly leads to what I want to be doing, or at a company that is already doing that. Yeah. You know? Or just making way more money so that I can do what I want on the side.
Right.
Like that's the trade-off. Is like, yeah, if you're going to make $200,000 a year, you can make whatever you want in your free time. So, or you work at a company where when you get to your free time, you feel fulfilled and don't need to go make other stuff. Yeah. That's cool too. So yeah, I learned a lot about what I want, what I don't want, what I still need to learn, and some things that I already know, which is, I think, underappreciated. I've had a lot of people this week text me and be like, you learned what you don't want. And that is something that a lot of people don't, that it takes them years to learn that.
And it's like, you can't learn what you don't want until you experience what you don't want. So it's like, you would have to go through this at some point, and you'll probably go through it multiple times. Like I'll probably go through it multiple times. I've had things like that. It's like, it is like a relationship too. Like I wouldn't have known what I wanted in a lasting relationship if I hadn't been through like shitty ones, you know? So
yeah. Well, it's even like people going into their first year of college, like take a bunch of classes, do a bunch of shit.
Well, like so many people will like switch their majors or like, go in undecided, which honestly I think is the move, because then you can just do whatever and then figure it out as you go. I mean, I feel like that's the whole point of everything, is that we're literally all figuring it out as we go.
Everyone is always learning. And if you're not learning more, then you don't know what else you want to do. So like, as shitty as it is to not have a job, I learned so much, not just in a practical filmmaking sense, but also in like a bigger picture, what do I want to do? How do I want to live my life sense, that, you know, I'm thankful to have had the opportunity, you know? It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
So
I will say, like, obviously neither of us have had to deal with anything like this married before. And it is like really shitty, like seeing, like being the other person in the relationship when something like that happens, because like there's nothing that I can do. And I'm like so frustrated and like upset on your behalf, but also like for me, and also like trying to comfort you but also
Yeah.
still give myself space to like also feel sad and scared because like we have the same money.
Right.
And it's just like, I feel like I see your potential like nobody else does, just because like I'm with you all the time and like I've seen the things that you do and like I see how you talk about the things that you do. Like even if this job that you just left wasn't your dream job, you still talked about it like it was the coolest thing ever. And like you were very eager about it and like always excited to be learning. Even if it like you would tell me things and I'd be like, that literally sounds so boring. But like you were stoked about it.
True.
It just like frustrates me because I feel like those are the things that like everybody wants in an employee or like in any type of position, really. It's like, I know that you're also like on top of that, you're also actually really good at what you do. And so like as your wife, I'm just like, I'm mad. Like, I don't want you to have to be dealing with that. And I don't want it to, because I can only imagine like how I would feel if I lost my job. It would be like such a punch to my ego. Like, and I don't want it to feel that way to you because I'm like, literally, I'm not just saying this because I'm your wife, but because I've seen like almost the full picture of the whole experience. I'm like, this is literally not you. Like, but it's just frustrating because you really can't, there's nothing I can say or do to fix it.
Yep. Yeah, it's tough. And I can imagine if you got let go,
we'd be fucked.
Well, right now, I'm saying like if the roles were switched, I would arguably be more torn up than I am about this, because this one, it's like the hardest part of this is my feelings, my like anxieties about what you feel about me losing my job. That's the hardest part of all of this.
Okay, well, you already know how I feel about you losing your job, so.
I know, but I mean, like, there's always going to be that like underlying, did I cause this? Am I causing my spouse, like the most important person in my life, am I causing them discomfort, fear, and like just a general sense of like not being safe? That's terrifying. And I know that those things aren't true. I know that like things were out of my control. Like I know all of the facts, but the emotional responses are tough. And so I can imagine seeing you deal with some of those same fears, as well as the ego punch of like that I've been dealing with was like, was I not good enough?
Yeah.
You know? That's a hard thing for anyone to deal with, but like watching your loved one go through that is way worse. So I can imagine it's very hard for you.
No, I think it's interesting. Like it's just interesting navigating situations when you're married, because it truly is like a team effort.
Yeah.
And
there's a whole different side of things that I never expected to feel about losing my job.
Yeah. And it's like, because we are like a team, even just like the last few days of you like applying to jobs and like doing all this stuff, I'm also thinking like, okay, well, what could I also do that could like be bringing in more money right now? So like I've been looking at things not to like replace my current job, but just like extra ways to like help get us more money. I'm like, okay, well, maybe we could sell some stuff, like, and like trying to make our new budget to figure out like how we're gonna do all that. So it's just been a whole thing.
Yeah. Which with that, like kind of playing off of last week's episode, I guess it was on Wednesday, we started thinking about it. And last week in our episode, Monica said like, this is the one time that anxiety has ever helped, talking about like her being anxious and deciding to find a new apartment. And we redid our budget, and we legitimately, if I don't find work for the next 6 months, like worst case scenario, we legitimately could not afford the place we live currently. And
or the place that we were initially going to move.
Yeah, or that place. So the fact that we found a place for like $700 cheaper in the part of town that we want to be in, like it couldn't be more of a answer to a prayer that we hadn't even prayed yet, you know?
Yeah. And we've talked about this all week, but literally, as shitty as it all is, like, thinking about that just like shows the ways that like God was already looking out, the universe was already like piecing things together. You know what I mean? Like, in our minds, we're so blindsided and so shocked, but like
it truly couldn't have come at a better time, which is a weird way to say. Like, it's a weird thing to say.
It feels like though it was being orchestrated already. And I feel like having the tangible situation of like, we found the perfect apartment for the situation we're about to be in, even though like we had different plans for it and like a different idea of what it would look like. I think we could still get to that point, but for now it's like, okay, there was a bigger reason for us getting this than we initially thought. And that just makes me think that like, okay, if there is a reason for this happening, this is proof of it.
Yeah.
And so that gives me peace in knowing that like, okay, this definitely was for something. And that probably means that like you losing your job was just making room for something even better. And like, yeah, I mean, who knows what would have happened if you stayed there? Who knows what would have happened if we kept the other apartment? Like, there's so many things. It's like if we had changed one thing, everything could be different.
Yeah. I think we would be way more stressed out.
And it's also the fact that like we didn't know any of this was happening, but we still made all the decisions we made. And I feel like that also just goes to show that like, I'm going off on a tangent, but I feel like the whole phrase of like, what's meant for you will never miss you type thing is like so evident, because like, even though we're kind of living out like an unfortunate sense of that phrase, but like, you couldn't have avoided losing your job, but also we didn't even know you were going to lose your job. And we made all these decisions that led us to a better situation now that you have lost your job. And so I feel like it just kind of goes to show that like we spend a lot of time stressing over like what the right thing to do is, or like, am I making the right choice? Like accepting this job or like moving to this area. But I feel like it does just always work out regardless of whether or not we stress over it. And so I feel like even just the fact that this all worked out the way it has, I don't know, it at least gives me peace to know that like, okay, it'll just continue working out and we don't know how yet, but.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, even something as simple as like, we're going to be in the part of town where if I am freelancing, I don't have to drive as far, you know, or like there's a coffee shop down the street that I can go sit at and do my freelance editing gigs. Like there's so many perks about that apartment and where it is and what it is that it's just going to make so much more sense for like this new season of kind of unknowns. And yeah, I think you're right. Like this probably wasn't avoidable. There was probably nothing we could have done to change the outcome that we're facing, but we were so blessed to have all of it lined up already for it to be the best case scenario for a pretty awful experience.
Yeah. And I feel like in maybe a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, we'll look back and be like, that's so crazy how all of that worked out.
Yeah.
When we were literally so terrified because we didn't know how we were going to like pay our bills. But
yeah,
like that part still is scary, but it's also like we're doing everything we can to move ourselves along. And so it's only a matter of time until we get it figured out. It is just scary right now because there's no timeline for anything, but
yeah, it's very like, I mean, at the end of the day, all of it is like the unknown. And
I feel like that's just life.
We've
just had a lot of
I think humans like to feel like they know what's happening. And so even when I was working at a job where I never knew what was going to happen next, but at least I knew, I'm going to go there at 9 a.m. tomorrow and I can handle it for 8 hours and I'll come home and it'll be fine. And now it's like, oh, I don't even know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Like, I don't know who I'm going to call, who I might have like an impromptu interview with, who I might go get coffee with that has a job for me. Like, I don't know. It's way more loose, which is scary and also kind of fun.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I'm definitely scared.
Yeah.
But I'm amazed at how also not scared I am, just because, like, well, first of all, like, I trust you and know that you're not going to just like give up or like just accept defeat or whatever. I put that in air quotes because that feels a little dramatic, but like, I feel like a lot of people who lose a job and get super discouraged are just like, well, whatever, like, I'm just not going to try again, and just like accept like mediocrity and like stagnancy or whatever. But I know that that's like not really an option for you, which is nice to know. So like, I'm not scared for that reason. Like, I trust that you are doing everything that you can and you're not gonna let us starve. I also just like fully trust that, like, I don't know if I've just like spent way too much time on TikTok, but I literally just feel like things are always working out for us, you know? Like, that's like all over TikTok, but like, it's so true. Like, and it's already been true that things are always working out for us. Like, even when it doesn't feel like things are always working out for us, because we've kept having. Yeah, that was tough. We've kept having like shitty stuff happen, but it keeps working out. Like, when we got in our car accident and we had to deal with that for so long. Our rental Kia Soul was kind of a vibe, and I'm not sorry for saying that.
Ripped. I kind of dug that car. Like, low key, might have to buy one of those whenever my car bites the dust.
But also, just like, we got a brand new car that we would not have been able to afford otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's great and it's super reliable and we love it. And so, like, yeah, it was a horrible situation, but it ended up working out. And somebody else was able to take my old car and fix it and use it. You know what I mean? So like, it worked out for two people. And like this job situation, it's like, yeah, it doesn't feel like it's working out because you just lost your job, but we have an apartment that we can afford. You'll probably end up with something way better that you'll be way happier with. Even if it seems like what you just had was like top tier for what you do, like, I bet you'll end up with something that's like, you're going to be like, I'm so glad that I'm in this now instead.
Yeah.
So
like, I've even been talking to, because obviously like my immediate response is like, cool, I'm going to text all of my freelance film guys, like all the guys that I know, and be like, what up? You know anyone? Like, do you know anyone needing anything? Any of my like songwriter friends, like, hey, anybody needing music videos, let them know. Like, I'm back on the market, essentially. And just the response within 2 days of that, 3 days, it's like, we have, you know, gigs lined up next week, already did a gig this week, already, you know, so many things already rolling our way that it's like, this could be such a blessing, because ultimately I don't want to make documentaries forever. Definitely not corporate documentaries.
It's just like, if you think about, I don't know, I feel like we've mentioned God a lot in this episode. Not that that's weird for us, because obviously we believe in God and we're Christians, but I feel like
we don't tend to bring
it's like in times like this.
We don't bring him into the podcast.
Yeah. And it's not for any reason other than we don't always talk about heavy stuff like this. But I feel like in times like this, that's when I like just see him at work more. And I feel like I think just knowing like your drive and your passions and the things that you want to do, I feel like maybe God was just like, I don't want you to settle for this. Even if it feels like this is where you want to be, like you're learning things, that's great, but like, I have something better. Yeah. And you always like it, you literally always have to go through things like this before something better happens.
Yeah.
I mean, it can never just be like a seamless, like good to good. Like, I feel like there always has to be like, you know, peaks and valleys, whatever. But
because the last time I lost my job was kind of the mark of when like freelance started to snowball, and I kind of mark that time because it was almost a year after I'd moved to Nashville. So that first like 20 or
You got it.
10 or 11 months was like a lot of kind of grinding and meeting people and shooting shows and figuring out what the hell COVID was, like all of that stuff. And then I lost my job, and same kind of thing. I like texted a bunch of artist friends, and I had more shoots over the next month. Like I almost didn't go back into coffee because I was like, I'm kind of, I'm vibing on freelance stuff. And my work was not nearly as good as it is now. So, and I didn't know nearly as much as I know now. So
Right.
it's just one of those things where it's like, I think there's so much opportunity, and like my goal is making movies, making narrative feature films by the time I'm 30. Like that's the
Thought
dream.
it was 28.
I mean, that would be amazing.
Isn't that
but
what's in your TikTok bio?
No,
Oh,
the year 28.
okay.
So it's before I'm 30. It'd be sick to be making a film by the time I'm 28. I actually need to be making the film by the time I'm 28 in order for it to come in on time. But I digress. Like that's my goal, you know, and it's been my goal since I was 21, and I'm holding on to it. Like it's big and it's scary and it's almost impossible,
No,
but
it's
it's
not.
like, that's what keeps me going in this highly, highly, highly competitive field. And I think this might have been a
A
good,
little push.
yeah, like a push out from that.
Yeah.
Me, like getting amped up right now on this podcast. I'm about to go make like 7 TikToks. But yeah, I mean, all things aside, this week sucked.
Kind of a shit week, to be
Kind of a
honest.
shit week,
Wait,
but also kind of a great week.
I have good news too.
You do have good news. Let's get into the good news because we've been too heavy for too long.
Going along with the things are always working out for me mantra.
Things are always working out.
Nice.
Thanks.
I got a promotion this week.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so that's
It's
exciting.
pretty exciting.
It's not anything crazy, but
It doesn't matter.
I know.
Because you literally got a promotion 2
I know I
months
got a
ago.
promotion 2 months ago, and I just got another little promotion to my promotion. And so that feels really good, especially like,
And you haven't even been there a year.
no, I've only been there 10 months.
So
So
the
just the
fact
fact that
that
I've gotten
you've
promoted
been-
twice in less than a year is super exciting. And I feel like it just like, I just like love the people that I work with. They're just like so, like when everything happened on Wednesday last week with Ty, everybody was so quick to like jump in for me. I like last second needed to just like take the day, and my manager was like, I got you, don't worry. And then my boss like texted me, was like, so sorry, sending you guys like love and support, let me know if there's anything you need. Like so many people have just been like, let us know if there's anything that you need. And then on my call with my boss yesterday, she was like basically just telling me about how the company's growing, and she was like, I just wanted to offer you this promotion, and I know like you guys have been going through a lot, and hopefully this is like coming at a good time. Like just like seeing the way they like care about my personal life as well as me professionally is just nice. So
Yeah.
there are silver linings all around. And I'm very excited for a future episode where we can give you guys like a happy
The happy ending
update
to this.
about, yeah. And I don't
Yeah.
even want to say happy ending because I don't think we'll get a happy ending till we're dead. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
like it's
yeah,
never
yeah.
going to end till we're dead.
True. But like the next chapter.
Yeah. Like
Because
I'm
we're entering a
new era.
new era.
And
an interesting era, that's for sure.
yeah, it's going to be tough for a little bit, but I'm hoping A, it doesn't last too long, and B, I don't know. I just hope we're still able to like stay motivated and keep seeing like the good in all of it, and to keep believing that we are lucky and that things are always working out for us,
Yep.
no matter how it looks at any given point in time.
Yeah, as tough as things are, like I think that's something you and I as a couple, thankfully we've always had to deal with. Like it's always been like, this is really hard, or like not us as a couple, but like things in life are hard, and you and I have dealt with them and like moved on, come out the other side better off, relationally, and also like as shitty as the accident was, like I think we learned a lot about each other, about how we deal with hard things like that are unexpected and scary. We're still dealing with some of that stuff of like some PTSD of driving on the highways, and like driving together. I think we're both more on edge when we're in the car together than we are alone. And I don't know why still.
I think it's just whenever the other one of us isn't driving. Like, I feel like the PTSD is a little bit worse when you're in the passenger seat and don't have control,
Yeah. But it's weird because I don't have it with anyone else.
Cool. Yeah.
Do you? You haven't ridden with anyone else?
I don't really ride with other people, no. But I do get anxious.
Yeah, I think you get more anxious than I do at this point. But for the longest time, I was way more anxious. So anyways, all that to say, like, we're still learning because of that. And I think it's honestly very beneficial. And I think my biggest takeaway from this week is how sick being married is.
It's pretty dope.
It's so dope because, like, I told my dad this the other day. The last time that I went through losing a job, I had gone through a breakup 2 days earlier. And while I was not particularly sad about that breakup, the combination of
just unfortunate events.
Yeah, losing a person, losing my job, like it sent me like kind of reeling. And I was like, I lost the job and I was like, fuck, like it'd be kind of nice to have somebody here that I could like talk to about this, be upset, be angry, be sad, whatever. And instead I'm like sitting in my room alone, and this time around, while it's arguably a lot scarier losing this job than that job, it has been like having you as a support system has been so great.
Yay.
It makes me happy.
Good.
Yeah.
Happy to help.
Even though I have to drag you through it, which
no, I don't.
Less cool.
I don't see it that way. It's definitely our thing.
Our dilemma.
That we will figure out.
Yep. Well, that's about it.
Yeah.
That's the week.
Next week, we're moving. So
we are moving next week. So
we will try to get back to our regularly scheduled programming next week.
Probably something a little more fun next week.
A little more lighthearted. We could all use it, I'm sure.
The last couple episodes been a little bit more intense.
But we appreciate you guys listening. Actually, a lot of people responded to last week's episode about our happy life update, and even a few people referenced it as we've told them about this current update of Ty losing his job and just being like, so crazy that you found the apartment that's going to save you guys a lot of money. So it's nice to like feel like we do have somewhat of a community around this podcast in particular, but also, just us as people, obviously.
Definitely.
And so we like to fill you guys in, and
yeah, we really do appreciate like the support that's come from this. Like that's been so encouraging and exciting to see that people are connecting, you know?
If you guys, if you enjoyed this episode, I don't know, feel free to leave us
share it.
A rating or review. Yeah, if you want to share it, that'd be great.
Yeah, leave a rating or review, click the follow button. You can
follow
also
us on Instagram
or on TikTok or on YouTube.
We'll have all of those in the show notes. And yeah, I feel like that's everything. Hope everybody has a great rest of your week.
Bye.
Bye.